We just approved the minutes. All right, so believe me, I had to go searching quite deep, but found some assigned readings for Juneteenth, which is coming up this Friday.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And so interesting reading from Isaiah that I don't know the last time I've heard outside of seminary, and a prayer from Walter Brueggemann for our devotions today. So the reading is from Isaiah 30, verses 25 and 26. On every lofty mountain and every high hill there will be brooks running with water on a day of the great slaughter when the towers fall. Moreover, the light of the moon will be like the light of the sun, and the light of the sun will be sevenfold, like the light of 7 days on the day when the Lord binds up the injuries of his people and heals the wounds inflicted by his blow.
Boy.
Definitely an interesting passage that we rarely hear, but some powerful language of the hope that comes, and the ways that God continues to provide for people, even in the midst of horrible injustice and persecution and oppression. And I have to say, the paired psalm for Juneteenth was Psalm 78, which is one of our longest psalms in the Bible. So we're not reading that, but I do commend it to you. It's a gorgeous psalm of the history of God's deliverance, sort of through the generations. But again, it's 80 some verses. So I will just commend that to you, perhaps for devotions this Friday. And a prayer from Walter Brueggemann. We all know I love my ode to heaven rooted to earth. We arrange our lives as best we can to keep your holiness at bay with our pieties, our doctrines, our liturgies, our moralities, our secret ideologies, safe, virtuous, settled, and then you and your dreams, you and your visions, you and your purposes, you and your commands, you and our neighbors. We find your holiness not at bay, but probing, pervading, insisting, demanding. And we yield, sometimes gladly, sometimes resentfully, sometimes late or soon. We yield because you, beyond us, are our God. We are your creatures met by your holiness made our true selves, and we yield. Amen.
Amen.
Guess it's still me, right?
Yep.
So I sent out my report, as I said. I'm just going to do some highlights. We were approved for PPP, which is super exciting.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you, Sandy and Kristen and everybody that put in work on that. We have not signed anything, mostly because we have not gotten the documents yet. However, once we get the documents, once we get the documents, and Sandy, perhaps when we talk about finances, you might have more insight, but we are poring over them with a fine-tooth comb a couple of times before we sign off on them, because it's a sizable loan if it's a loan, and it's a very generous grant if it's a grant. And so we need to ensure that we can meet all of the guidelines for it to be a grant, which we should be able to do, because the last I saw it was 60% by the end of the year has to be spent on payroll, which is more than doable. But again, Sandy might have more information on that. But we need to be sure that we follow meticulously every detail, because there is no way, we will be so much worse off if this converts to a loan than if we didn't take anything. And so before we sign, there will be more than a couple of pairs of eyes taking a look at it and ensuring that we can do something with it. But it is exciting. And so what that means is, though, once we sign off on the PPP, we need to bring teachers back as soon as we can. Because part of the point of why they're doing this is for people to not be on unemployment. And so that's good news because it means we can open even for the couple of kids that we have. It also means that we're open, you know, as soon as we can. But like I said, we don't even have the paperwork in yet. So I think we have some time on that. And as I said, the other news coming out of childcare right now is Ms. Debbie has retired, will be retiring on the 24th of June, which is understandable. I mean, she was nearing retirement anyway and decided that this was just not the situation for her to return. Under community engagement, a lot of the same stuff we've been doing and that I have been doing about reaching out to folks, keeping involved with what's going on in our community. A couple of things, though, to take note that I did this month. One is by Donna's invitation. I presented and was part of a community forum with WeMan, the West Mount Airy Neighbors Association, and was part of planning the vigil on Sunday, and there will be another one on Thursday that I will be at, but was not part of planning. We also have photos taken and an article being written, as yet to figure out where it will be published, by Susan Bacchius, David Gensler's friend. She's been writing an article and researching our figurative windows, so that's the 3 windows over the altar, and really trying to write those up, which I think some great publicity for some beautiful windows. And the last thing is, and we can talk about this more later under new business, is a question of whether we are interested in joining POWER. Philadelphians Organized to Witness, Empower, and Rebuild is a multi-faith organization in Philadelphia, actually in various parts of Pennsylvania, that's sort of a coalition of congregations that are able to raise a collective voice on many social justice issues. And so for that, and so I included the address in my report if you wanted to look them up. But really what this is it's a way for people of faith in Philadelphia to raise a collective voice without it just being this pastor and that pastor and this congregation, a way to do it together. So there's currently 50 some odd congregations of various faiths in Philadelphia. We would be the second only Lutheran congregation to join that group. But it's a question that we should take up. I think not just in these times, it's sort of something that's been out there and something I've been aware of for a while, but I've heard from around the congregation, various people that are looking for ways to amplify the voices we have in our congregation, amplify our influence and our power, and this is one way to do that. However, I should say it's more than just yes, we should. The next step would be inviting a representative from Power to have a conversation with council, probably the next time we met, about what it means and what's involved and all that kind of stuff, so that we really realize that it's a commitment and not just signing off on something. So it's a question, and it's for later in the agenda, but I wanted to include it there. You may have noticed in the e-news, I canceled my office hours tomorrow. I have a 9 to 5 boundaries workshop that's required for my call. And so it's required every 5 years to take an 8-hour healthy boundaries workshop, which is a good thing. But after 8 hours from 9 to 5 on Zoom and then Bible study at 7 on Zoom, I thought people could probably make an appointment instead of me sitting on Zoom from 5 to 7 for office hours also. I will be available. I will be texting. I'll be emailing, but that's a lot of Zoom in a day. Please do continue to check your emails. Lots has been going out, and frankly, any more things are changing almost every day. So I'm trying to get information out as soon as we can. I have sent a set of guidelines for sort of consideration and thought to our COVID committee to review before we start our planning. I should say it's an ecumenical document that was sent out to ELCA, Episcopal, Methodist, maybe some Presbyterians were on the committee. It's like 36, 37 pages that details everything about worship. So it's going to take us a minute to get these guidelines together, but it is a very comprehensive document for us to review as we move forward. Currently, though, we remain in yellow, which means there, according to Pennsylvania, there's a limit of 25 people in gatherings. Philadelphia is recommending no gatherings. That's the last I've heard. And certainly that's what the Office of Faith Initiatives in the city is recommending. And so we've made the right decision. I talked to the bishop at the vigil, and when I told her that we decided to stay online until at least Labor Day, her response was, "Thank you, and can you make that public so I can use you as an example for everybody else?" So we certainly have her support, and frankly, it's my suggestion that depending what happens with going green, we really shouldn't get back together until there's no longer a limit on the number of people to gather. Right? I mean, because right now, even with our safest guidelines, at 25, we would have the potential of turning someone away at the door.
Right.
Which is worse than saying meet us online. But those are all part of the conversation we'll be having. Yes, John.
Pastor Jay, who was it that sent? I must have wandered for a moment. Who was it that gave out the extensive guidelines on worship to you?
The guidelines came from an ecumenical group of folks with representatives from the ELCA, the Episcopal Church, the Methodist Church, and I think the Presbyterians. But I know at least the first three. And so it was sent out to congregational leaders in the ELCA with ELCA backing of really the detailed lists of things to think about, including, details like, in order to have communion, the pastor should stand 6 feet away from the altar while wearing a mask, speaking in low tones to not produce aerosols, if at all possible, not facing the altar, with gloves on, to distribute only wafers as people come forward 6 feet apart from one another to receive.
No, sorry.
So, we have a lot of
entire purpose.
So we have a lot of things to work through. Don't worry, I have some. I have been dreaming and visioning as I sit in my little recording studio in the sanctuary of what this looks like. But it includes things like, for the time being, and even once we go green, there will be masks, there will be no singing, there will be no communal speaking. No. I will sort of sit in the chancel about 10 to 12 feet away from folks because the projection of leader is bigger than that. So there's a lot of details for us to work through. And so we will get to that. But a lot of those are in that 36-page document, which is why I wanted to—
Thanks, I just missed who had sent it out.
But before we start planning.
Okay.
Eventually, yes. I'm sorry, somebody said something?
I mean, people are starting to see a resurgence of cases.
So that's the question, right? And those will all be the questions that come up once the guidelines come up, because the fact of the matter is the guidelines that we will come up with will not necessarily be color phase specific. It's going to be a long time before we can just say we don't have guidelines for worship. There are going to be rules for participating in worship for some time.
Yeah, for a couple of years, maybe. Well, at least a year.
Right. And so the things that we are voting on, no, I'm sorry. We are nowhere near voting. But the things that will be presented in the guidelines that we will put in place, part of that question is, and are you ready to close if we open? Like, if we open and something happens, or Philadelphia goes red again, which it probably will, are we willing to close again? Because if we're not willing to close again, then opening again is a risk. Currently, I've now seen 3 different articles and presentations. On a scale of 1 to 10, all 3 of the articles and presentations that I've seen list going to church as an 8 on a risk factor out of 10. It is still continues to be one of the riskiest things for folks to do because of the type of interaction and the length of interaction, as well as the shared practices around that. Now, there's a lot you can do to mitigate it, but again, we are nowhere near all the details of what it looks like, but we
Right.
are having those conversations, or will be once we review these guidelines. Evangelism and outreach continue, same things as before, but we've added now Welcome Bread. Welcome Church was realizing that a lot of their members and friends were facing real, true hunger in a way that they had not before because of some limitations around soup kitchens and food banks in this time. A lot of church-based soup kitchens, for example, have drastically reduced their capacity to serve. So
Right.
Welcome Bread is a direct feeding ministry, meaning if you give them money, or if we all got together and made sandwiches, but if we gave them money, then it goes directly to food in hand, to those in mostly Center City, but in Philadelphia with need. Under Faith Formation, Bible study has been going well. And I have to say, Monday school has been going really well. I've been getting some great feedback on that. As a matter of fact, we like doubled our attendance this week. So that's good there too. Krista Hall, the New Testament professor, she is the new Erikine at the seminary, is interested in joining. She'll be joining on the Feast of Mary Magdalene. And I continue to have a few conversations with a few other folks. There's no reason folks can't join during Corona Tide, but we are working through that conversation there.
I love that word.
Right. I mean, there's just no other way to talk about this. It's just,
Corona Tide.
yeah. Under Parish Life, Zoom Good Brews has been good. We had a good turnout, better the second time. And book group is meeting, and I'm excited about that. I will get that all set up, and we can have that conversation. I continue to check in with some folks. I had a wonderful conversation with Sarah Cowder on the other day while she was notarizing a letter for me. Yeah, under personnel, as I said, under personnel, everything we've talked about before with payroll, who's what, how many hours, blah, 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 everybody would have to come back full time. Just because that's what we agreed to, that's how that money is meant to be spent, and it would have to be sort of as soon as we're comfortable. Now, probably what would happen is teachers would come back for a couple of days of training. And what would probably also happen is that since we would not need all of those teachers, it would be a great time for a lot of them to get some of their other trainings done, that they could do at the center. You know,
Right.
I don't know anybody's doing like CPR training right now, but that could be done at the center. I told you about Boundaries Workshop. I told you about speaking with the bishop. Weekly devotions have been added to the e-news from Lutheran World Relief. I'm sorry, it actually should be LWF, from Lutheran World Federation. There'll be a reminder sent out tomorrow. There's a prayer service tomorrow, 6/17, at 12
16.
noon. I know it'll be on Facebook. I don't know where else it will be, but it's coming out of Higgins. So it's coming out of ELCA churchwide offices in commemoration of the Emmanuel 9. So on the actual commemoration day. And then there'll be some other daily offices and stuff over the summer. Now, that prayer service will be live, but it also will then be available after the fact. So certainly it will be distributed and posted to our website when we have it, but we don't have it for right now. So that's what I have. The only thing I'm realizing, because I just saw where I wrote it on the back bottom of my report, and so I didn't see it. We need to talk. I got an email today about AA, asking about guidance around returning. What we had told AA at the beginning was that we were not requiring them to not meet, but we were strongly encouraging them not to. AA is considered an essential service, and so we gave them instructions around what they would have to do in order to meet, right? They could only use the chairs, they'd have to wipe them down when they were done, they'd have to take attendance with contact information in case we had to do contact tracing. They chose rather to take advantage of some online resources that are out there. However, anyone that's ever been to any anonymous meeting knows that like online resources is not quite the same as going to a meeting in person. So really just their question was Saturday AA. I don't know that we've heard anything from Thursday, but Saturday AA has been asking, just sent me one today, and I said, well, we talk about it. Personally, I think until we have a cleaning company actually agree to come in, we can't. So I think it probably won't be until July. But once we do that, then at least we have, as long as they wipe down their chairs, we should be back into safer. But really at this point, so long as we don't have professionals cleaning between groups, it just.
But they don't bring food or anything to the meeting or anything. They just have the meeting.
So they make coffee. They
They also
might
make
bring
coffee.
food. They might whatever, right? But they use our coffee makers and whatever. This is all right. But they bring their own creamer and sugar and whatever. And as a matter of fact, they bought mugs from us to use. However, what we told them early on was, if you are going to meet, which they did for the first Saturday that we were closed because there wasn't enough time to tell people there wasn't going to be a meeting, and I don't know if they met after that or not. But what we told them at that time was they would have to bring their own food and drink in and take out all their trash with them, because they could not use the kitchen. The kitchen had been sanitized. Currently, the childcare was sanitized the Friday before the Monday that we closed. So nobody's been in the building since it was sanitized, at least downstairs. So that's good. If we can kind of keep it that, I mean, it will probably definitely need to be dusted out, but so all that's good. So really, until we can until we get someone in that can clean between groups, I think that we need to hold off on having groups in, because that will be part of the conversation we have to have with the cleaners, because we do have, like, what happens if there's childcare from 7:30 to 4:30 or even 7:30 to 6, but then council comes in at 7:30, or AA comes in at 7 or whatever. Then do we make them truly like an overnight, as in like third shift overnight, or do like come in super late like Perry used to, or do we augment everything else? But we'll have to think about that, because anytime there's anybody in the building, everything's going to have to be cleaned off again. So
Right.
So anyway, just things to think about. But that's what I'm going to tell them, is we're working on getting a cleaning service. Until we have one that can clean between groups that are in the building, we're not open to outside groups. They're really understanding. He's really just wondering if we've thought about it, because we're in yellow now. So
Right.
That's it. That's what I got.
I'm sorry. I have a question. How are we doing with finding a new cleaning service?
So that's why it's under new business.
Okay, never mind.
Last I checked, according to Denise, there was a card that she had in the office from somebody that reached out with a mailer. I know I have to get some information. My mom has a cleaning service that they use that's been looking for some more industrial business. But, I think at this point we need to actively be put in the process of looking.
Okay,
And
'cause I have a
figure out.
service that I could recommend. I've
Great.
never used them, but they do Friends, so I can give you their name. I
Great.
don't know if they do industrial. So I'll just
Well, I mean,
pass it on.
at least corporate size, right? At least business size.
Right.
But yeah, and frankly, that's one of those things we got to find somebody that's going to do that process, because
Right.
we need to share the wealth. So, but yes, so, but that's under new business. But I think right now it's collecting names and figuring out who's going to be the person to do some pricing with people. Because I mean, probably 2 or 3, but we need a couple of quotes.
That could get expensive.
Right. I mean, do they have to come in between, like you're saying, between every group?
So I don't know between every group, but it would definitely need to be probably 6 days a week.
Yep.
Because it would have to be after church on Sunday, and then after school every day of the week. Because
Right.
if anything happens and we cannot say that it was sanitized that night,
We're skunked.
then, I mean, potentially not. Potentially people are sane and realize that going to childcare is probably almost as bad as going to church, if not worse, because kids are putting their mouth on everything.
Right.
But
Their mouth.
but basically, it is going to be pricey, and we will need to look into how it's paid by whom,
Yes.
because like I said, Sunday, we would need like Sunday evening to have them also do the sanctuary.
Yep.
Which we've never, since I've been here, we've never had a cleaning service or even a cleaning
No.
person for the sanctuary.
No.
You don't really need one on a regular basis, but we need someone to come in and sanitize. So they would need to come in after church on Sunday and and basically do the sanctuary and Kimes Hall, because people will have been in the bathrooms, people have been in the office, people have been wherever, although still no communal food for a good long time. And then every day they'd have to come in and do the childcare. And so it'd be 5 days a week that they would do Kimes Hall. Well, it'd be 6 days a week they do Kimes Hall, and one of those nights they would do the sanctuary.
Church as well.
Yeah.
So if we did have AA, then they'd have to come in again for that.
Well, and that's the question, right? Like,
Right.
would they have to come in? Well, they wouldn't have to come in before AA, because Friday night's cleaning would be okay for Saturday morning.
But they'd have to come in afterwards, because
Right.
for people who are going to church and have to use the bathroom or something.
Right.
So that would mean 7 days a week.
Basically. This is a sizable chunk of like, it just is. And the thing is, it's a level of cleaning that we cannot just say we'll volunteer. Like
Oh.
you know, normally for church stuff we say like, oh, we'll have a big church cleanup day and who's going to take out the trash after church every week. But this is a level of sanitation that is a
Pastor,
significant
we
chunk
tried the who's going to take the trash out, and we all know how that ends up.
Would the company
So-
have to be certified in cleaning, or could it be just any cleaning company? Or are there special companies, special certification companies have to have now to sanitize for,
I was gonna say that's a question that I will need to ask BA, because for church there wouldn't necessarily be a requirement so long as they clean. And I mean, and the thing is, we say sanitize, but clean, but they're finding like cleaning works. So like we really mean it. We need a thorough scrub down. But I don't know if there's special requirements for childcare.
right?
I mean, I would think the more that the company had in certification, licensing, and or their own insurance
Right.
can only serve to help us.
Right.
Like I don't think it's a bad thing to have someone that has too much licensing or insurance of their own, just in case. Of course, one never knows, but just in case. But let me check with BA.
Okay.
I don't want to get ahead of us, but it sounds like we're working on the cleaning company. What I was going to say, though, is I would like to make a motion that the decision of what company we hire can be made by the executive team, because it will need to be made before our next council meeting.
Sure.
Sure, that's fine with me. Sure.
Is my motion.
Second.
Thanks, John.
Oh, was that a motion?
I mean, in theory it was, because it was a financial thing. I always like to do official motions. Is there discussion or debate or disagreement that executive team should make that decision because of time?
No.
No, none that I can think of.
Okay. Great. Wonderful. All right. I feel like we're still on my report, maybe. I don't know.
We are.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you were at the ELCA service.
Yes. No. I'm officially done. I think there were some questions that came up about clean. Oh, it's because
Right.
I wrote AA on the back of my report.
On the back.
All right, and then we talked about cleaning.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
it just kind of went, but now we're going to give Sandy the floor.
All right, Sandy, have at it.
Because, and first I want to thank her for her work. She is amazing.
Thank you, Sandy.
You're welcome. So as far as the PPP loan is concerned, I don't have any more information, Pastor Jay,
Okay.
besides what I sent you in the email.
Perfect.
And I guess the question is, how are we going to decide whether we should go forward or not? Do you want like a team to look it over, or you said you want a few pair of eyes?
Right.
Sure.
So So the big thing for me is not should we take the one thing that would stand in the way of us taking it is if we cannot fulfill the requirements for it to convert to a grant. But council already talked about wanting to do it. Like we already made the decision we were going out for it. So taking it isn't the problem, provided it converts to a grant. So all we need at this point is just to ensure before whoever has to sign off on it signs off on it, that we are absolutely sure that we can fulfill every letter of the requirements, because we cannot afford for any of it to convert to a loan. Now, the good thing is, it sounds like BA was saying that she had a friend who got a PPP for his business and part of it converted to a loan because he couldn't use all of it or whatever. So it at least sounds like it's not the whole thing turns back into a loan, but regardless, that still puts us worse off than we are now if we don't take it.
Screw that.
Well, somebody needs to look at it, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, when we get it, yeah.
I would say we don't even
How
have
many
it.
people do you want to look at it?
Well, so that's the question. I think minimally BA needs to look at it. Frankly, Denise should probably look at it since she's the one that put all the documents. I'll take a look at it. It'll definitely go out to the exec team to run our eyes past it, which would be a pretty goodly number of folks. And I'm not sure, should we run it by Ralph? Do you think Ralph is
I think
Yeah.
Good idea.
that's
Okay.
a great idea.
Yes.
Okay.
You know what? I feel like it's all, unknown territory with these loans and grants and things, since this has never happened before.
Right.
I don't think any of us are absolutely positive what's going to happen.
Well, so the nice thing
Because
is
these rules have been changing. They said one thing to start, and of course they're changing in our favor.
I was going to say, Denise shared with me a change that seemed to change in our favor.
Yes.
Which was it went from 75% had to be used on payroll to 60%.
Right.
And it went from within 8 weeks of receiving the funds to by December 31st, 2020.
Oh,
wow.
So we need to use 60% of it on payroll by the end of the year, which I'm fairly certain we can do.
I'll say that sounds like a piece of cake.
And here's a question. Did
Yes.
we need to have these people on our payroll the whole time? Was that the point? Or is there a
No.
way to
So
rehire them?
so as far as I understand, we would have to bring them back as soon as we could, as soon as was feasible, because the point is that they're not on unemployment. But it's not my understanding that you have to back pay them,
Okay.
because we'd have to back pay them, and they'd have to pay back their unemployment.
Yeah.
And from the things I've been reading, it seems like it's just you can use it from this point going forward. And frankly, because of the way that our funding works, as I used the phrase the other day with a clergy friend saying we are desperately nonprofit, meaning if we don't have tuition, we don't pay our teachers. And so because of that, we can really look and say, well, because we didn't have tuition in April, we couldn't pay May. Because we didn't have tuition in May, we couldn't pay June. Because we don't have tuition in June, we can't pay July, meaning that we have 3 months that we have no money to pay August, because that's the way our funding works. Now, whether it's going to stay that way or not, I think is a real question mark, because at this point, nobody's paid ahead. And as a matter of fact, a lot of their money has been credited ahead for them anyway. So it'll be real interesting to see how this works. But we'll get that part worked out. But it seems to me like that's not so much the worry. My worry is what needs to be done so that we don't have to pay this back.
Yeah, I definitely would reach out to Ralph. I think that's a great idea. And
Well,
if he
BA is
doesn't know,
also a
we
lawyer,
would
though,
know
isn't
who
she?
does.
I was going to say, and BA is a lawyer, which helps.
Right.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
She's a
great.
smart cookie.
Okay.
Okay, that's all I have.
All right. Anybody have any questions on the finances?
So if
Look at them.
I'm sorry, if I may, you should have received with my report, there's an addendum, the cash advances from CALC to CLCCC. So again, that's the money that the congregation has paid for childcare expenses, and Denise has been doing a really good job. 2 things. All this money has been spent by the congregation, and the congregation still has about $8,000 in the checking account, let alone a sizable chunk of change in the savings account. None of this, Denise wanted me to make the note, and I'm not sure why, because I'm fairly certain I related to her what we said last month, but nothing has been paid back from the childcare. I'm fairly certain we agreed that at the end of every month, the money should be paid. And I'm almost sure I told her that, but if not, I'm going to get on her to do it this month. So the money is there to be paid back. It just hasn't been, but it also hasn't been needed, which is really great news on the congregation's part. And all of that, I should say, without dipping into 1 cent of the Bartlett money that we got. So the Bartlett original money is still sitting there.
Good.
And I don't know, it didn't make it now. We just got our check from the Geshick Trust, which was a couple weeks early. So we got our second quarter Geshick Trust money. So that also rolled over to the savings account, and we still have about $8K in the checking account. So like we're doing pretty okay. But yes, this money needs to be paid back. It has every intention of being done. Like I said, I swear I told her, but
Whatever.
oh well. Somewhere it got lost in translation, and it's not like we're in the red, so we're okay. But that money will be paid back. But just this is what Denise has been doing to keep track of all of those details, which is the one I sent out with my report. So.
Pastor Jay?
Yes.
In your report, you mentioned the I think $23,000 that it would cost to repaint the sanctuary. Was that just a little reminder about that? But that's not going to happen right now, right?
No, so I did not report anything anywhere about the money for the sanctuary. The sanctuary painting is happening, but it is covered by a donor.
Oh, but I saw it somewhere. I saw the amounts listed somewhere.
Yeah, it was probably in the minutes. Yeah, it was in the minutes.
Oh, that was it. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
But that is covered. We have that money. Barry is starting. Yay,
Yeah.
we will have painted walls again.
Not just now.
Right.
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 Okay.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Sandy.
All right, property. Do we have any updates?
Barry will be starting in July. He's not sure when because the COVID thing has totally screwed up all of his organizational. So the painting will start in July. And then I'm hoping when we get him here, he'll give us also an estimate for the exterior painting, which desperately needs to be done as well, because we have parts of the church, the wooden parts, like the bell tower, part of the cornice of one of the portions of the roof to the bell tower was fallen off. Tom and I picked it up off the ground. So we desperately need to have the exterior painted as well.
And somebody needs to look to find out where the birds and bats are coming in.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because Pastor Jay is really tired of being St. Francis in the church all by himself. So.
Mm-hmm.
And did the whole toilet thing in the parsonage get straightened out?
Oh, I'm assuming that Crystal has sent the person in. She hasn't reported back to me yet what the deal is, but since it's his special toilet, he gets to pay for that.
Good.
If he wants his toilet to flush a certain way or whatever, then that's on him and not our problem.
That works.
Now the leaking in the basement and flooding, that is an issue, and I'm going to prod Crystal and ask her if she has any news about that.
And I find flooding has to be a bit of an exaggeration.
I bet it's the clogged downspouts or gutters or something like.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it's a clogged downspout, because remember when he first moved in, he wanted the downspout changed to a certain spot or something and buried.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that's not smart, dude, but whatever. Does he listen to us? No.
Yeah.
So that's done. So we'll figure out what that is.
Okay. All right. New business. The Child Care Center CD is up for renewal. Well, the deadline hadn't passed, right? Because I know I got that email a long time ago.
I think the deadline is like Monday.
Okay.
I remember whatever the date was, I was like, oh, we will just be able to make a decision at council.
Right.
Okay.
personally, I say renew,
Yeah.
keep it to the year and just roll it over, which basically means we don't do anything. We just let it stay.
Right.
Okay.
But at this point, it's not even sizable for us to worry about trying to.
What is that?
So a certificate of deposit. So
a CD. Okay.
So the childcare, the congregation has none, but the childcare has at least one, and at this point, I think just one certificate of deposit, which is where a lot of our savings is, which is put aside for things like if the childcare were to have to close or have an emergency or whatever. It's where we draw our money from. This CD matures like this week, next week. And
Right.
so we have to just say, what do we do with it? And what we traditionally do is just roll it over. It happened to come to council because we don't technically have a committee for the childcare right now, at least, because we're not meeting. So it falls to the congregation. So it just falls to council, just to say, yes, we're going to do what we always do, which is keep it rolling.
What's the term of it?
A year.
Oh, okay. Year to year. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, we could do more, but it's only about $15,000. So it's not so much that it would make sense for us to have such a lengthy renewal. And we usually do the year to year because it just gives us a little more freedom if there comes a problem.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so everybody's agreeable to just.
Yep.
All righty. The cleaning company we've discussed. Does anybody want to volunteer to take the lead on that? And get some estimates? Or help?
I should say at this point, it's probably just collating the names of companies that we have. Because I think BA has one, Denise has one, I have one, Elizabeth, you said you have one. So there's 4. So it's really just collating and giving some calls.
Okay.
Drew, you're muted.
How's that?
That's better.
There we are.
There you go.
Want me to get the names of the cleaning companies and get an estimate from them, for example? I could do that.
Yes. So we would probably need that like by Monday, because we're looking at the potential of having to, I mean, probably by next week, because we're looking at the potential of having to open by the end of June. So,
Okay.
So just collating those names and making those calls. And then if you just get that info to the exec team so that we can move ahead with that. That works.
Okay. We also talked about power. Did you have anything else you wanted to say about that?
So no, because I've explained what it is. I want to know if there's questions, and does council want me to invite a representative from Power to our next council meeting to keep that conversation going, or are people, you know?
I say yes.
Okay.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yes.
All right.
Good.
That's all. That's all I need. Is I just needed more than me to say yes, this is a good idea. Okay. That's all I needed there.
Okay. Update on the childcare reopening.
Well, at this point, as soon as we have PPP, we got to have teachers back. So, but regardless, we're looking at probably the beginning of July at the, as a start. Some families have said, I know at least 2 emails I was CC'd on said they were comfortable with beginning of August, maybe middle of July, depending what numbers look like. And at least one family that said, you know what, we'll be back in September. We'll be back when the year starts, which for now, at least we don't need the space. And that was the agreement that we gave the parents, was when you're comfortable or when we need the spot. So we're looking at probably by July, by the beginning of July, we will be open again, following all kinds of crazy guidelines. And if I were you, I would avoid the corner of 8300 Germantown Avenue, like,
in the
Well,
morning.
I'd say like the plague, but we don't do that so well apparently anymore. So instead, but I would avoid it because we're talking about like 6 feet apart, dropping off children at the door for temperature taking, going a whole different way back to your car. Like it's going to be a process. But we will only be from 7:30 to 4:30. That was the agreement because we will need all hands on deck for both pickup and drop off. Because before, where it was 2 teachers in the building with 10 kids, and parents would come in, sign up, sign or whatever. Except you're going to need a teacher to take all the kids' stuff with the kid up to the door for the parent to pick up at the door. It's going to be a process. But we are looking at sort of the beginning of July, so I think that's good.
Right. Worship.
We talked about that too. So
Yeah,
I
we
think
did that, yeah.
I was gonna say, but do look. There will be some conversations with those guidelines of a few potential purchases, relatively inexpensive purchases, but some purchases that will need to be made for use of space and things like that, depending what comes out of that guidelines. But they're coming. Yes.
And these are guidelines for September.
These are guidelines for when we decide to be back together in person. So personally, I think that if we're still in yellow in September, or if we've gone green and are going back the other way in September, or whatever happens, then there's still no point in being back together. So the thing I've been saying and have been hearing from more than a few folks as I've been. I know I was talking to some people in coffee hour on Sunday that were interested. It seems to be the general consensus of people I've talked to that so long as we would have the potential of turning someone away at the door, which is the truth if you have a cap on how big your gathering is. And frankly, a gathering of 25 even may or may not be possible in our space because of the spacing needs, because it's 6 feet apart or 3 pews apart.
Oh,
right. So like we just don't have that big of a sanctuary. So long as we would have to turn someone away at the door, that's not so great. Because currently there's a sign on the door that says, you can find us online, you can find us on Facebook, you can find us on our website, you can join us on Zoom, it's all there. In a way that's better than, oops, sorry, you're too late. You don't get to come to church today.
Right.
I mean, and the thing is, one of the suggestions that often comes up is, can you have smaller gatherings, but more of them, which is what a lot of the Catholic churches have been doing.
Yeah, but you'd have to sanitize in between.
No,
Exactly.
that's right.
I mean, I think we should wait as long
yeah.
as we have to wait, because like you said, our congregation is on the older side.
No one, I was able to say that so far as has spoken to me directly, and from any news I've gotten from anybody else, nobody at Christ Ascension is rushing this process. I have not had anybody tapping their foot at me, which is a shock. Not really, because I know Christ Ascension, but compared to a lot of my colleagues, it is, I have a colleague who has a 2-point interim right now. They are going back on Sunday because she was threatened that if they did not go back to church this Sunday, this was decided on Sunday at a council meeting, by the way. If they didn't go back to church this Sunday, there would be people who would leave the church because other churches were going back.
What?
Wow.
Right. So let me tell you, I have not had this at Christ Ascension, right? Most everybody at Christ Ascension is like, right, but I'm going to be there and not able to sing and not able to speak and not able to touch anybody and have to sit 6 feet away from everybody. I'd rather stay online. At the same time, we need to balance the witness of being on the avenue with our doors closed, so we can't do that forever either. But conversations about, and talking about like purchases for worship, we would need to get, it is going to be my strong recommendation that we get a signal amp for the sanctuary so that we can amp the internet, the Wi-Fi that we get out of the office, because currently I'm using my hotspot.
Oh, yeah.
I was wondering how you were managing
to
that.
do worship.
Okay.
when it's sunny and not too windy and I sit just a little bit closer to the window, I get perfectly fine Wi-Fi in the sanctuary. I get just enough to like open Facebook, not enough to run Zoom. So I use my hotspot. We won't be able to do that, but we will probably need to figure out a way to have some sort of live online component, even once we're back together in person, for those who choose not to come back right away. Because again, your other option is, well, we're having church, and if you don't feel safe coming to church because of a truly valid plague, too bad. Then you don't get church this week. And that's not fair either, right? So there's going to be things we need to talk about, none of which in and of themselves is particularly expensive or hard to do, but there's going to be a lot of them. So that's one.
Well, and you only have so much time.
That's right.
I mean, thank you for
No, I'm
understanding.
serious.
But other considerations in that are all hymnals, envelopes, pencils, offering plates, everything leaves the pews because they're shared services that cannot be appropriately sanitized. Like you cannot sanitize a book. You can't. Like you would need to. They were wiped down with Lysol before and after worship on the last Sunday we were together. How do I know? I did it myself with gloves on. And we didn't actually use them in worship that day, so we're fine. So we can put them in a box and bring them back later. But like, yeah. So there's just all kinds of questions. All of which we will talk about. The COVID committee and I will deal with that as we move forward and bring recommendations. That doesn't in any way need to be, and frankly, it's going to be a huge headache if we try to do it as a committee of the whole process. So the committee and I will get together. But yeah, there's a lot to consider there, which relates to the next point, if you don't mind, Madam President.
Yeah, absolutely.
So new worship resource. We had talked a few months ago that the ELCA has a new worship resource. It is a companion to ELW called All Creation Sings. It is purple, and I've been told it's purple, although I think that we should have something more like eggplant to go with our cranberry hymnal, but nobody likes that. So it's purple. All Creation Sings, which is 2 new settings of the liturgy, like 600 new hymns. Like it's just think, if you remember back to With One Voice, which was the blue book that went with the green book, it's like that. It's been 10 years of having ELW. It's time for something new, basically transitioning us to our next worship resource because ELW is out of date. And so we had talked about having a fundraiser so that we could purchase it when it comes on the market in the fall. Because if you bought and paid by, at the time, September 15th, 2020, you got a significant discount on the per book unit price. And so what would it cost? And so we were looking at doing that. They have extended that discount time into April 2021 with the understanding that nobody's coming back together and singing at this point, right? You're not using hymnals, you're not singing, why are you buying a new hymnal? However, I mean, knowing who we are as Christ Ascension, I think we should keep it on our horizon as something that we want to do. But the update right now is, but I'm not pushing for us to do it to come in September when we're going to have a box of books we can't even open, which is just going to make us, it's really just going to make us sad.
Well, we're going to get in on the discount for sure, though.
Right, but they've, I'll
The discount.
What?
They extended the discount to April, right?
Right. So I will triple check that, but that was the update, is that they've extended it into April 2021 instead of September 2020. The book will still come out at the same time. Book will still come out in November, but there's no rush for us to be raising that kind of money. And since we just, by the way, I see the next thing, Candidacy Fund has $840 in it. We only needed $650, so I hereby say we don't need to push fundraising for the Candidacy Fund. Now, if people continue to give, it's not a bad fund for a church to have. But at this point, we have more than we need, so we're good, and that check can be written.
Wait, how much short are we of the goal tonight?
We're not. We are what, 190, just 90 bucks.
Oh, we're over.
Yeah. Oh no, we're $190 over.
Oh wow. I was going to give again, but I guess I won't now.
No
for that.
need.
No, we're good.
Good, we did it.
There, bing, bang, boom through the old business.
All right.
I have a question about the hymnal.
Yes.
Did they decide on purple in order to reconcile red state and blue state Lutherans, or what?
Well, I don't know why they chose purple. I don't know why they chose purple. I will tell you, purple is a huge change for a Lutheran hymnal. We've been sort of more, we've had two red at this point.
Yeah.
And blue and green, I think at a certain point they just are running out of colors. However, there's been some complaints among clergy because there already is a purple hymnal, Worship and Praise, which is also put out by Augsburg Fortress, is purple, and about the same size and also paperback. And so there's some people that aren't happy, but whatever. It is what it is.
Yeah.
My God.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Well, and I have to say, it's very exciting. I've looked through some of the previews of some of the liturgies and some of the hymns, and I'm very excited to get to use it because we actually have some Arabic hymns in it, which is about freaking time. So I'm excited about that.
All right. State of the congregation.
I want to pass along a comment for FYI that I got on 2 weeks ago in the post-service small group thing. And if you, I don't know if I should say the name or not, but it's just a general observation. What?
I said you don't have to.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter, I guess, but it's just it's just an observation. But of course, we're all frustrated, definitely, about not being able to worship, even though we know the reason, or worship at church, even though we know all the reasons. We've been through it many times, a lot of this meeting and everything. But one person actually mentioned in our group that they were really sad that we couldn't worship come back yet, and wondered if we might try an outdoor service over the summer sometime. Although I think so that they were just saying, I don't know if they knew if it would work or not, but they just said maybe. Maybe.
So I know this is not a time for rebuttal, but I actually just had someone, Sarah, asked me about that on Saturday when I was getting something notarized from her.
Who was it?
Sarah Calderon.
Oh, that's who said it to me. That's who said it to me. Okay.
So what I told her and what I'll tell everybody else is, indoor or outdoor doesn't matter. There's still a limit of 25 people right now. So for right now, at least, no, because we still would have to turn someone away at the door, and perhaps even be more seem even more exclusionary in that process, because people don't. Inside you can kind of go, oh, it's a small church, maybe they're full. Outside, you're like, oh, but there's all this open space, but it's still a gathering. I also know, listening to, as I said in our last council meeting, I was part of a Going Yellow, or, phase 2 conversation with the National Council of Churches, where we heard from Dr. Redfield from the Center for Disease Control, who said inside, outside, that's not necessarily what matters. Because inside, yes, you might be closer to someone and there's not, you can't spread out as much. But outside, if you happen to be in the wind stream, like in the breeze, and then you're getting it right in your face, right? In a way that inside you're not. So it doesn't really matter. So for now, at least, no. Unfortunately not. However, would that be a conversation to have once we were transitioning back into it? Do a little bit outside? Maybe. But at least for now, the limitation isn't space so much as at 25 people, and we were averaging 30 to 35 on a Sunday. So
who do we keep out?
Well, and even if people self-select from our congregation, so that we know that it would be 25, even one person that walks past, and we know we get people in off the street, even one person walking by that we have to say, oh, we love having you here. Can you stand out on the lawn and try to listen in through the window?
Right.
So that's really the issue there. And it's true. But because I didn't know that you were talking about Sarah. I just wanted to clear that up.
No, I hadn't mentioned it to you. I thought I'd save it for tonight.
No worries.
But it would be impractical too, because we might, even if it were okay to set up an outdoor survey, if we set it up and then all of a sudden it's going to rain in the morning, what are we going to do? Call everybody and say don't come? And all that. So,
Oh yeah.
but anyway, I just thought that was appropriate for the state of the congregation. So.
Oh, it absolutely is. That's what this time is for. And usually with no rebuttal, but in that case, I hadn't answered the question. So.
Right.
How's everyone else doing?
I'm enjoying the
Hanging in.
garden.
I'm sorry, Sandy?
I said I'm enjoying our garden.
Oh.
Yeah?
Got some of those tomato plants and
Good.
some of the other things, yeah.
I just would like to thank Pastor Jay for especially Sunday, his sermon and his I had invited him to present at our Wee Man meeting, Westmount Neighbors. And we're trying to really wrestle with the race matters.
Mm-hmm.
And especially as it relates to white privilege.
Mm-hmm.
And Pastor Jay was just so, well, he did get a chance to share as much because it was so long, his letter that he sent the congregation. But I said to Pastor Jay how much I appreciated his transparency and his willingness to really hit this head on and really help us to wrestle with this whole issue. And I was very pleased with this presentation, and we're going to look in the fall. But I see him as really providing leadership, guidance, direction, and I just wanted to say that I feel so blessed to be a part of the congregation, and especially with his leadership. So I just wanted to say that.
Oh, well, thank you. Oh, well, thank you, Donna. I will say I listened to the sermon just because I cut it out. If anybody ever wants to share just the sermon, I cut it out after Zoom because it is always significantly different. I find the Spirit moves me and it's always significantly different. Same themes, but different than the one I pre-record. But I listened to it. I am not using this on Sunday. I bought myself a headset so it doesn't rub on my stole anymore. So hopefully we won't get quite the same rubbing in the. I was like, ooh, this is getting really annoying. This is getting annoying. Yes.
I have one other little thing. It just came to my mind. I couldn't believe it when you said Sunday that someone had actually texted you or sent you I don't know what it's called, but sent you some kind of message to speed up the sermons. Or something.
No one actually had. No, it was a joke. So I made the joke at the beginning of worship that I had made the. I had made nonverbal reactions possible. So for a while they had been suspended, but because we're doing Monday school, I made them possible so that people could interact with Dr. Schleifenbein-Guerrero.
Right.
But because of the account we have, it then applies to all of our meetings unless I want to turn it off and on for each one. So all I was saying is I will not entertain someone telling me to speed up or go faster for the sermon.
Oh, I thought someone had actually.
No, nobody actually has
made a remark about it.
No,
Sorry.
it was just a joke because I happened to realize that it was there on Sunday and it hadn't been there before.
Yeah. All right. That's good.
Last thoughts and feelings from folks? Well then, for all the things that we carry with us, for all the things going on in our world that you know so intimately, for reassurance on the way, in part in the community you have gathered, and in part with your own words, we pray as you have taught us. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us today our daily bread. Forgive us our sins as
As
we
we
forgive
forgive
those
those
who
who
sin
sin
against us.
against you.
Save
Save
us
Save us
from the
from
time
the
of
time of
trial
trial.
and deliver us from
us
evil.
evil.
For the kingdom, the power,
Power
and the
and the
glory are
glory are
yours,
yours.
now and
Now and
forever.
forever.
Amen.
Amen.
All right, so our next meeting, we're not gonna have our, what you call it in July.
Nope, I have taken the workday off the calendar.
I can't
Can't
think of the
imagine
word.
Our what?
I
what?
normally we have a work day in July, John.
Oh, right, yeah.
It's a full day work day. We will not be doing that.
No virtual workday?
No, let me tell you, the sorts of things that we do at that are a lot of visioning and stuff, which is tough to do on Zoom.
Yeah.
I've been a part of a
Zoom
few that
doesn't
have
lend
tried.
itself to that sort of thing.
No.
No.
Hell,
And frankly, a lot of what we do that day is to set a calendar, and we have no idea what's coming. So
Okay.
this is true.
It'd be difficult.
True. So I know historically, even before the workday, sometimes we'd skip the July council meeting with people being away and on vacation. I don't know. I mean,
It sounds like there's so much going on.
personally, I'd like to at least check in on things like coming back together in person. So even if we have an abbreviated meeting, I do think, because the thing is the potential of waiting then until August
no,
is
I mean,
cutting
I'm
it kind of close.
totally fine with it. I'm not doing anything else once I come home from work.
Who's going away on vacation this year? You know?
And we could hear what's going on with the childcare. I mean,
Right.
Right.
So I'm all for it.
Yeah, that's fine with me. Second Tuesday?
So second Tuesday doesn't work for Donna.
Third Tuesday.
Third Tuesday.
Third Tuesday.
There, you say Tuesday,
Third Tuesday?
Oh, that's
I'm hearing a couple different things.
Third
Yes, no.
Tuesday.
The 21st of July.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. This was a good meeting.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
And I will try to get someone from Power in on that call, depending what else going on. If this all keeps going like it is, maybe we'll have to wait a minute on that one. But we should be able to have a little bit further that conversation.
Sounds
Thanks,
good.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Take
Good
care.
night, everybody.
Good night.
Miss
Stay
you.
well.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is missing.